Welcome to the Iced Tea Podcast. I'm your host, Meghan Lamontagne, and today we are interviewing play-by-play announcer for the Carolina Hurricanes, Mike Maniscalco. You're not going to believe what he does after a game and what the vibes are like on the plane after a win or after a loss, and just how him and Tripp Tracy manage on camera when they get a case of the giggles. Iced Tea is a production of Mix 101.5 and presented by Lane & Associates Family Dentistry, where every patient is treated like family. All right, Mike Maniscalco, welcome to the Iced Tea Podcast. Today, the Hot Tea Podcast, because we just felt like drinking some hot tea.
Well, I mean, we spend so much time in an ice rink, Meghan. I felt that it's probably appropriate that we can actually warm up during this.
That is so fair. We want to be comfy and cozy, and I love that. It was such a good idea because this hot tea is hitting. It's hitting right now. Play-by-play announcer for the Carolina Hurricanes. Mm-hmm. It's just such an honor. I've had the pleasure of knowing you for the past couple of years, but I want to deep dive because there's so many questions about your job and about your role with the Hurricanes and about you that I want to know. And I feel like just being friends, I should know at this point.
Sure.
But first things first, walk me through what a game day looks like for you when it's at home.
Okay. For me, it's pretty simple. It's Groundhog Day in a good way. Wake up, usually about 8:30. Sometimes 9:30. It depends.
That's good. Get your sleep.
Depends on the road, but yeah, get your sleep. Everybody who's out there, but no, get up, get ready, go to the morning skate, which is at 10:30. Try to get there by 10, but usually get there by the time they hit the ice. So you get the line combinations, you get everything sorted out. You kind of figure out your way around the rink and things that are happening, and then afterwards they open up the locker room where you can then go in and talk to the players. If you've got a question about something that you've seen, or maybe it's a new guy in the room, you introduce yourself to them, but just get a couple of things out of that way. Talk with Tripp Tracy, my analyst, some of the things we're going to talk about during the broadcast, or just get his take on what he thinks the game's going to go that night. Then you listen to Rod Brindamore, get his thoughts on it. Then depending on who the opposition is and what's going on, they'll have a morning skate after, and it's kind of rinse and repeat.
Okay.
And you do the exact same thing. So you'll watch them, like the San Jose Sharks were here the other day. We don't really get a chance to see San Jose all that much because they're out west. So you talk with their broadcasters about their players. Hey, what about this guy? What do you know about this? So basically, you're garnering intel and things you can use on the broadcast. This guy played with this guy, or these two guys know each other from. And just to use an example for that, like Jackson Blake, the really good rookie for the Carolina Hurricanes. Well, He knows the guy who's the number one overall pick, Macklin Celebrini, as they played against each other in the Frozen Four. So you get like little bits of information like that, and then you hear from the opponent's coach and what they think of the Canes, and you try to work it in. And then I always joke with everybody about this, Meghan. I do more homework now than I ever did as a student.
I was going to say, this is a lot of like pregame prep, and you're basically producing the show when you're at the
we have a producer, Jim Malia. Jim, you owe me $1 for the name drop. But Jim is one of the best producers in the business. So he basically has the outline for what he wants to talk about in the beginning of the show, and like what Tripp and I will talk about. And when we say the beginning of the show, before they drop the puck, because when they drop the puck, anything and everything can happen. But I'll go back home and then I'll finish my notes. Like, okay, maybe I found a note on this player that I didn't know, or I want to hit, or somebody's playing in their 800th game, or they're 1 or 2 points away from something. So I have a notebook that I keep. It's old school. Like I am not afraid of technology, but I have this irrational fear of, if I rely on like a computer spreadsheet when I need it, like everything will crash. So I just do everything by hand.
Yes. I love that too, because and this by note, you are doing so many more notes than I am in game, but I feel like when I write it down, it sticks in my head. Like if I write it down and I know I'm not even going to look at it when I say it on camera, the act of writing it makes it stick better.
Yeah.
So you go home, you write your notes, you do that, and then do you eat before you head to the arena? Do you eat at the arena?
No, I do not eat at the arena. I don't eat before games. So a couple of things along those lines. So if it's a home game, I'll be home and I'll put everything together, get everything set up, take a late afternoon shower and shave, because, this growth, well, it's not much. It seems to come back if I shave in the morning. So take care of all of that. I'll have lunch or something light at home because in today's day and age, I am always worried that I'm going to have something in my teeth.
Okay.
Or even worse, I'll eat something and it doesn't agree with me. And when you're doing play-by-play, you can't really call a timeout and can't do, or I don't want a moment to go viral because I got sick on something I hate. So I usually don't eat until after the game.
But honestly, that is a fear of mine as well. Yeah. And like I said, I definitely have more breaks than you do to like, if I need to use the restroom or something, because once you're on, you are on. Actually, that's a really good point. I didn't think about that. But I also keep it light myself because the last thing you want to do is feel uncomfortable when you have to be on camera.
Yeah.
But okay, so you start, let's say the game puck drop is at 7 and you start the pregame at 6:30. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you really don't have a chance. No. Have you ever had to like like your bladder was full and you just have you ever had to
there is the intermission, so I do have some
that's
time.
Right. That's right. Okay.
A little bit of time. So you learn how to map it out. But no, for the most part, you can figure it out.
But, and also when you're at Lenovo Center, I mean, those bathrooms that you have to use are not close.
No. They put them strategically as far away as humanly
at the
possible.
Other end of the hallway.
So that's good. I get my steps in and I get to pretend that I jogged that day.
Look at you.
So that's good. Oh, yeah.
Multitasking.
Exactly.
Yes, Mike. Yes. You got to do what you got to do. Okay. So then the game happens. Then you do your post-game show. After post-game, what is getting home from the arena look like?
Normally by the time I get to my car, the parking lot's cleared out. So just a real simple drive. Jump on 440 and get to my house and then I go home.
Do you crush food when you get home? I crush food when I get home.
I usually have something to eat when I get home and I'll watch back the game.
You watch the game back to listen to yourself and critique or like and get better?
Yeah, all the time. Like when you asked what do I do, like in the afternoon before the game, I'll either watch our last game or our opponent's game. I'll have it DVR'd, so I'll watch it.
Wow.
I
get it. That's
a lot
impressive.
of people do it. So I know people say that, but it's just homework.
And are you hard on yourself?
Oh God, yeah.
So
yeah, trust me, all of you out there in the comment section, none of you say anything that I don't already say to myself.
Oh my gosh. But that's part of being an analyst or being on camera or even radio or anything. Really any job. Just it's hard because we are our own worst critic.
Yeah. Well, and I'm also doing it because, you want to get better. You want to find out. And I'm not just doing it you're going to pick the stuff that doesn't sound right. And it's funny because I'll hear something or I'll say something immediately and be like, man, I can't believe I said that. And no one will notice it. And then I'll go back and watch. I'm like, how did this one go unnoticed? But you learn to watch as well, Megan, for the positive things that you do. Like this works. That's good. This was funny. This interaction is something we could do a little bit more of. So that's kind of how that works for me. I mean, it's not all just like, oh, this was terrible and I'm not going to go to work tomorrow or I'm waiting for the call to
No.
Thanks, but no thanks. We're going in another direction. But, it's like anything. You have to, and if you get in this business, this is for anybody who wants to do what we do, you have to, be able to take criticism because there's so many people I know who don't. And I'm like, all right. But you've got to see where it's coming from. Like if it's coming from your bosses or your coworkers with it, hey, you need to work on this, or you're saying this word a little bit too much. And for me, I don't want to go into it going, oh, they're wrong. I go and listen and, I'll write down, I'll have like notes. I'm like, you're saying this word every single time this happens. Say something else. So.
Well, I commend you too. I went to you pretty much right away and I said, hey, listen, what can I do better with my shows? And you saw me out the gate and I was the greenest thing when it came to hockey. And your note to me, and I still do it to this day, but I definitely think I've gotten better, was just slow down because I was just so nervous and rushing through everything. But you just told me to breathe and slow down, and it was great advice. So I appreciate that.
It's amazing how much time you have in 5 seconds.
Yes.
I know.
You
doesn't
think
seem
you have
like
to
it,
rush.
But, oh yeah.
But 5 seconds is a long, long time. Iced Tea is presented by Lane & Associates Family Dentistry. Now, the team at Lane, they don't just handle fillings and cleanings. They also do cosmetic dentistry, Invisalign, sleep apnea, and even TMJ care. So to find a location near you, head to lanedds.com. Something else that just impresses me about you, in addition to all the other things, but pronunciations. These hockey players are not easy names to pronounce. So is there like a log that is the correct way to say it? and just how do you do it?
I'm gonna get in trouble with this. So yeah, the NHL provides a pronunciation list, and if you go by that, you'll be right 80% of the time. So what you do? No, so that's like when we go back to the morning skate, when you talk to the other teams' broadcasters, or while you watch their broadcasts, you try to pick up on how they're saying their players' names.
Okay, because they say it all the time.
Yeah, and there's something now because there's so many players who come from Sweden and Finland and Russia. And so when they come over, they're not listening to the broadcast. They're not really caring how their name is said, but their names will change through the years. They're like, yeah, it was said like this, but this is really how we say it. So you're like, oh, okay. And that just happened. That happened this season where the player his name was said this whole way for a few years. And he's like, no, it's actually said like this.
I think I'll just, because I think I was part of this because I had to change the way I say it. Or was it Kokaniemi?
Well, when Jesperi came to the Hurricanes, Tripp asked him right away, how do you say your last name? And he said, this is a funny story. So he told us it's Kotkaniemi, but he was drafted by Montreal, and in Canada they just called him Kotkaniemi. That's like what he went by. And Canadian broadcasters are great, but they really hammer the first syllable.
Sure.
Hey, I do it too.
Yeah.
But so we all thought it was Kotkaniemi, and he told us no, coat, like coat. So he's actually said on the pronunciation guide that the Canes have that it's Kotkaniemi, and we're like. So I went up to him and I said, is your name Kotkaniemi or Kotkaniemi? He goes, well, in Finland, it's Kotkaniemi, but here it's what they called me. And I'm like, what does your mom say? What does your dad say?
What do you want us to call you, KK?
And we had this also with Stephen Lawrence, who that's another one.
Yeah.
But so this got settled quickly for us. He told us Kotkaniemi. We say Kotkaniemi. But Andrei Svechnikov was sitting next to him. And Andrei, with his, he still has his little bit of a Russian accent, he goes, what do they say at home? And he goes, Kotkaniemi. And he goes, he can say that. And it was settled. And Jesperi got a little, it was funny because he goes, whose name is harder to say? I'm like, yours, because I'm never really sure what it is.
That's right. And also when you see Kotkaniemi spelt, you're like, wait, what?
It should be caught. Yes. I get.
Yeah. That's wild. I love that story so much. So when I watch you when I'm at home, when it's an away game, because I'm also in the arena when you're in the arena. So I hear you more when it's the away games. And you, in the best way, give me anxiety because the way your inflection when they're about to score a goal and then when they get a goal and your genuine excitement, it sounds genuine. Are you genuinely excited?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But how do you get that anxiety? Because everyone on the other end of the screen is like, oh my God, we're building with you. So how do you create that?
Well, for me, I'm watching how the play is developing.
Yes.
And, you can sort of sometimes, and I'd love to tell you I'm the best ever at this. I'm not, but if you're an athlete, if you've played sports, if you've watched sports, you can tell when something's going to happen. You just know, this is something big's about to break. And with me, the job that I'm in is you can see it. So I'm trying to add to it. How can I make it more of
in a great way?
Thank you for saying that. But it's one of the situations the players deserve all the credit. They're making the play. So if I can be with where they're at, moving the puck, setting it up, I'm like, well, I know that this guy, because that's why I go to practice, you can watch these plays that they set up. And if this happens, this guy should be there. And if he gets it there, all right, that should be a goal. So you kind of anticipate it. And you're building the anticipation for the people.
And you probably know 99% of the time with the chemistry and who's getting the puck that if it's going to go in or not.
More like 9% of the time. But yeah, no. No, it's you can figure it out. Anytime it's overtime and it's 3-on-3.
That's right.
And Sebastian Aho and Marty Necas are on the ice. Something good's going to happen for Carolina.
Yeah.
So it's easy to do.
So you brought him up earlier, Tripp. Your chemistry together is so great, but there has been some moments where I will say you two have gone viral. Let's just say Reese's Pieces. That was a whole funny thing. How do you, what do you do when you get the giggles on camera? When you're tired and you're just like, we need to get through this and something like that happens.
Well, I think now we go with it. For the Reese's peanut butter cups. Peanut butter cups. Yes. Google it if you don't know. For that, I was always, because, I worked in I wanted to be in TV right away out of college, but I got sidetracked with my radio career. And you were always taught if something like that happens, you just keep going.
And in that moment, you did keep going in the best way.
Well, it's the funny thing is, like, people are like, you ignored it. And I'm like, if you go back, you see me look at the camera, like, I heard him say it. He's whatever. But I can't sit there and say, you said this on the air.
Of course.
So, you don't want to draw more attention to it. So you move on with that. I got to give him credit. He fully leaned into it afterwards. Like, he owned it. And there's a very nice couple out there who printed up T-shirts that I have one. It's a little bit different. I can't wear it out in public, or if I can, people will read it wrong or right. That'd be worse. But Tripp and I have learned that if it's funny, laugh at it. Like, too often you get like somebody try to be too damn serious or whatever.
Sure.
If one of the best pieces of advice I've ever been given, Megan. Now, in a situation like that, like, I'm hoping nobody else picks up on it because I've said some things. I'm like, oh, please, nobody pick up on this, because you're kind of in a stream of consciousness. You're going with what's going on. We don't have things that are scripted. I am not scripted. I know people have things they like to say, and that's fine. There's no wrong way to do this job. But in a situation like that, I'm like, oh, let's just move on. And some people are like, oh, you should have said something. I'm like, what am I going to say?
Sure.
But when we get something that's funny now, or when you say the giggles, we lean into it because it is funny and we want to laugh.
And
as long as it's
it.
appropriate
Sure.
to laugh at it, we laugh at it.
The other couple of games ago, I was trying to say the local bar, and I could not say bar. And I, over and over again, on the mic in front of the entire arena, kept saying bra, the local bra. I couldn't get it out. So it happens to the best of us,
gosh,
yeah. Oh my gosh, that's wild. But yeah, that video is really funny. And again, if you don't know what we're talking about with Reese's Pieces, just Google it.
Just Google it. Just Google it. It's out there. He, there's a lot of things for him. He was sick at the time, and he blames it on cold medicine. But I'm like, you could have said Twix.
And honestly, it when you say those words together, it's very easy for what happened to have happened.
Trust me, yeah.
So, yes, we talk about home games, but you travel with the team.
Yes, we do.
You fly on the same plane as the team. Mm-hmm. So I really just want to know all the ins and outs of getting to the airport and kind of who sits where and who do you sit with, and just tell me about the plane experience.
All right. So did you ever fly first class?
Like once in my life.
It's first class times like a billion.
Oh, wow.
It ruins you for air travel for the rest of your life. It really does. Because it's a charter flight.
Oh, yeah.
So we there's a parking lot assigned to the Canes players and the staff, and everybody's there. So we park our cars there, and then we get on to the plane. You got to go through, we do go through a security check, but we don't go through the main terminals. There's the little private terminals that are next to there.
Which is so great.
Yeah,
Saves so much time.
Oh, absolutely. But you walk through, you get checked, you get bags checked and things like that, and you get scanned. But once you go through, if it's a long trip and you're bringing a big piece of luggage that's carrying a lot, there's a little bin that you put your luggage in, and they'll put it on the plane for you, or you just carry your stuff onto the plane. The plane we fly, it's a new plane this year. So you walk onto the plane and you make a left, and that's where the front office and the coaching staff would sit. So that's where Rod Brindamore, the coach, is. General manager Eric Tulsky, if he's on the trip, he'll sit up front. The middle is for the players, and then the back is for the broadcasters, the way it should be. But yeah, we sit in the back of the plane, and I sit next to Tripp.
That's awesome.
And every seat is a first class seat.
Every seat is a first. And do y'all eat on the plane too?
Oh, yeah.
Food, and that's planned by the.
It's planned by. Well, actually, it's planned through the. Basically, you have a concierge. That's the. Yeah, I know, but with part of the getting a chartered flight, they'll provide meals after the game.
Okay.
So when we get on the plane after the game, there'll be meals.
What are the bathrooms like in this plane?
They're like bathroom planes.
Like, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I was thinking.
I mean, we don't have. No, there's not showers,
is there a couch
Megan.
in there?
No, not a couch. Still a plane.
Listen, I'm like visualizing all of it.
I mean, we're not flying on. I'm trying to think right now. We're not flying Taylor Swift's private jet.
Fair. I understand, but still a very nice experience.
It's a great experience. Oh yeah.
And so, what is the vibe like? And I'm sure it changes based on if you win or whatever. But are the guys chatty, or do they kind of like zone out on the plane? And...
A lot of it depends on where you're at on a trip,
Sure.
what happened in the game that you just played.
Sure.
Clearly if it's a win, there's going to be a lot more excitement and talk and things that go on with that music. The guys have a speaker, and if you guys are in charge of the music and what they
So
can
when you're
play.
getting on the plane, it's like, okay.
Yeah, well, it's not exactly, we're not at the club, but, there's a definite light atmosphere to it, club-esque or, a bar with a stage.
So
How
you're
about
saying
that?
the lights aren't going?
No.
and then,
That's
champagne comes out. I got you.
That's only on New Year's, and I guess when you win the Stanley Cup.
I got you. Fingers crossed.
But no, that's kind of it. After a loss, it's a little bit more subdued, a little bit quieter on that. And then, if you're flying cross country after a game, and sometimes we do that, it turns into a red eye. It's just how quickly can you go to sleep?
Exactly.
I can't sleep on a plane, and neither can Tripp.
Okay.
So my seatmate and I are awake, but I use headphones, and and it never fails. I don't know if you've ever had this. Every time I put my headphones in, I'm going to listen to music or something, my seatmate will have a question for me.
I can see that. I can see Tripp just being a little chatterbox, and we love him for it. And that does bring me to, I know you guys have worked together for a long time.
I have to call him a chatterbox now.
But how do you keep that relationship going? Because it's no surprise to anyone when you work with somebody as much as you work with Tripp. You're together the whole game. You travel together. I'm sure it's a brother relationship. How do you keep it so real? How do you keep that brotherly love going?
Well, for me, we are who we are. Everybody always asks what you see on camera, what you see for both of us. That's how Tripp is. That is not some kind of act. I get asked if does he really get that Taco Bell order? Yes, he does, because I've seen it. And feel free to sponsor this, Taco Bell. I know you can have tea to go with your tacos.
That's right, tea and tacos.
Just saying, we can step it up next. So just 3% of all of the marketing rights for that over here. But
we'll give you some residuals.
It's because, there are a lot of people, and here's if we're going to spill the tea, there are a lot of people in this business who front-facing are one way, but then when the camera and the lights are off, there's something completely different. And I think, that's what Tripp and I, why we get along, is because camera on, camera off, he doesn't vary from his personality. I don't really change from mine. And when I say don't really, I use a lot of words that you can't use on TV. So you see me, and I always feel bad, if I'm with friends and I'm out somewhere and I'm in a conversation and I'm like, oh my gosh, I just said that word. And if somebody hears that, I'm like, well, I don't say it on TV, so we're okay.
Yeah.
But the one thing that I say, and this you'll have to ask Tripp, but for me, it's our personalities are really different. So that to me is what works. But I do joke, it's Chris Farley and David Spade. Only David Spade is in my body, and Chris Farley is in Tripp. So it's like they swapped David Spade and Chris Farley's bodies with their personalities, and that's why we get along.
But I often wonder, and I asked you this question before, and this is just funny with Tripp just being how he is, and, after a game, my social meter and my social battery would be so low because you just talked for 3-4 hours straight. And I would just not want to talk to anybody. Is that how you can get sometimes?
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah. I mean, for me, there are times, especially if, the game didn't go the way you wanted to. And I'm not just saying if the Canes lose, but if, the broadcast didn't go very well, you just kind of want to be quiet.
Yeah.
And, it's like anything. You work with anybody or your family, you're going to have, days where it's not great, where you're like, just let's just not talk for a little while. We'll figure that one out. But the great thing is one, it doesn't last forever. Two, it might actually just last for 15 or 20 minutes on the flight. Hey, let's just, and when you're around somebody and you're friends with them, you can read
honest.
But you can read the room too.
Yes.
And you're like,
yes.
I'll give you your space. You need to talk. I'm here. If not.
Yep.
And I think that's one of for me, my growth in the role for play-by-play. It's first off, the great people behind the scenes who never get the credit. And I mentioned Jim Mallier, our producer, a little bit earlier, but our directors, I've been really blessed to have great directors who know what they're doing, or good people away from the scenes. But Tripp and I, it's gotten to a point, and I'd known him for a long time too. Like that's a huge advantage.
Yeah.
Like I didn't just get dropped into this and hey, I'm working with you now. So we had a good read on it, but we're friends, and it's one of those situations where if it's okay, you need your space, I'll give it to you, or if you need to talk, yeah, I'm here, whatever you want. So
that's great,
well. And it makes life easy. It really does. And trying to figure out, he is amazed at the movie references that I have, and I'm like, you went to Harvard, man. Like that's the magic trick. So
that's incredible. Yeah. It's incredible hearing about you two's chemistry, and it's certainly, you can see it on camera, but knowing that is just genuine behind the scenes too is awesome. But before you were here at the Carolina Hurricane, I mean, you took over for John Forsland, and that was, we've talked about that before, and big shoes to fill, and I know that change is never easy.
No.
So how did you kind of transition into that role?
I have size 13 feet, so that helped. Every time, like when people say that, I'm like, I've got, that's my shoe size, and they're like, huh? I'm like, got big feet. So that's part of it. But it was. I wish, and I've said this before, and I've done interviews about it a lot, Megan. I wish the circumstances were different, but they are what they are. Uh-huh. And I had a lot of people, most notably my dad. He's like, you want to do this your whole life. Why are you going to say no? Because my dad's line was, well, are they not going to do the games? If you say no, they'll have the games. He's like, then just say yes. And then I have another good friend who's like, yeah. He goes, why would you not do this?
Yeah.
And, again, change is hard for people. I get it. But I just went into it and I'm like, well, you know what? I'm going to be me. And, I've wanted to do this forever. I prepped for a long time, even though there's so many routes to get to jobs. I did not have the A to B to C path, where, people go and, chase the play-by-play route at other levels. I was prepared to do that. And then I met a girl and I got a job. And I'm like, well, if I'm sitting, calling single A baseball in Des Moines, no offense, Des Moines, but, I don't know how long she's going to hang out with me.
Yeah.
And I had just a different job offer. So it took me to a different path, but I never turned down doing play-by-play. And, I was around it for a while. I did ACC basketball play-by-play. But look, I get it. When somebody who's been a mainstay moves on, there's always the great line in sports, Megan. You don't want to be the guy who follows the guy. You don't want that. So, but somebody has to. And from this point on now, this is, I think at the time of recording this, I took over in the bubble, and that's a whole nother, we could do 6 hours on, but took over, and that's the summer of 2020. So 2020, 21, 22, 23, 24, fifth season now behind the mic doing it.
Did you always want to be a play-by-play announcer?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
That was the goal. Well, there were two in college. Play-by-play for the New York Yankees. That was the one. That was the dream, like little kid me.
You're originally from New York.
Well, yeah, Buffalo, New York, I know. Like, because it's a big state.
It is a big state. It is.
But, like, if I wasn't going to be a pro athlete and at an early age, a lack of talent was really going to prevent me from having a professional career. Is what it is. That's fine. I mean, I played. I made all my varsity teams and things like that.
That's talent.
I know. And it was a decent football player, not great. I was a decent baseball player, not great. Like I could have gone and played college somewhere, like walk-on stuff or Division II or Division III. But broadcasting and actually journalism, like I got into writing. And I wanted to be a writer, and I'm old now, Megan. I'm a dinosaur.
You are not.
At the turn of the century, like all of the sports, not everybody had a full 24-hour sports talk station in their town, but Western New York got one, Buffalo got one, and I was going to be in TV. Like that was going to be my path. Like there was a much slimmer version of me back in the day. There's visual proof, but I was going to be like a Sports Center anchor. Like that became the next thing that you wanted to be. But I just got this opportunity. I was working for a radio station. It started in college. That's how I got into this. College, I hurt my knee, Division III football, no scholarships, no whatever. And it was a captain's practice. And really, it's just a group throwing footballs around, running routes. And that was the end of it. Long story short. And I'm like, well, what am I going to do now? And I walked into the student radio station and, X, Y, and Z all lined up. And I became the sports director for the student radio station, 91.3 Buffalo's original alternative. Still going strong, by the way.
Shout out.
Exactly. Hey, it's my first
That's
radio
amazing.
station. You make a ton of friends through there. And I was a sophomore when I got named the sports director, and I had juniors and seniors working for me.
Wow.
And they were then getting real jobs or internships. And when they would leave something, they'd recommend me for it. And then that's how I got my start at WGR, and then WGR turned into WGR 550. I think it was 55 at the time. Now it's 550. They, took a chance on me and gave me a weekend shift, and then they went all sports, and I got the full-time gig Monday through Friday, 6 to 10 at night, and that kind of closed the door on TV.
But then the door opened again on TV.
It took a long time.
A long time.
Because I went from Buffalo to Richmond, Virginia.
Okay.
And then from Richmond to here. Richmond was one of those things where you talk about, like, everybody remembers like your first love and all of that.
Yeah.
My radio station up there, that was great because I was given the, green light. And so you asked me the question about replacing John. So I went into Richmond, Virginia, a 24-year-old Yankee, going into the capital of the Confederacy and replacing two guys who'd been there for a while. Mm-hmm. So I've gotten hate mail for, 24 years of my life now. I'm fine with it. It's good. It doesn't bug me. But I went into that situation, and at first, I'm just here to do a job. Why?
Sure.
So everything kind of preps you for it. But I was there for 6.5 years, and it was great because you learn how to, kind of grow up, take care of your own business. But, I was great. My bosses, my program directors, you work in radio, they're like, just don't lose our license. And they let me try things. And so that was a good thing. And then a job opened up here with 99.9 The Fan. And I moved down to Raleigh, and here I am. And I'll save how that breakup happened. Let's just say it wasn't by choice, but I get to use the Jake Taylor line from Major League. Well, I couldn't cut it in the Mexican League, so I figured I'll try TV. That's a baseball reference, everybody, just so you know. But yeah, in a million years, I never thought that once I got to hear in radio, I'm like, well, TV's closed. I'm like in my early 30s. I think I was 31 when I officially moved here, and I'm like, yeah, TV's not going to happen. And then at 40, TV happened. So
there's still hope for me.
My God, you're 22. There's plenty of time.
Wait, did you say I'm 22?
Yes. You're not?
Yes. I am.
Well, spill that tea, Meghan Lamontagne.
I'm a lot older than people think. I just turned 37.
Okay. Stop rolling because somebody's lying on her own show right now.
But that's okay. I mean, I love, doing radio.
Somebody thought this face is good enough to be put on TV.
It is.
You'll get a job on TV.
You are sweet.
Trust me.
No, radio is amazing. I'm so thrilled to be doing this podcast. But to your point, I want to bring it back to having thick skin, because in this industry, it is so cutthroat. It is so hard. Mm-hmm. Everyone wants your position. Oh, yeah. So I do know that you had talked about this before, your support system and your family helping you get through it. Can you elaborate more on that?
Oh, sure. I mean, first off, my dad was my harshest critic. He told me when I was very young that I would be in show business as the voice of Mickey Mouse because I had a really high-pitched voice for a long time. Oh,
you
yeah.
did?
For a long time. I don't like the sound of my voice when I hear it.
But you have now you have a deep, but
it doesn't sound like that to me.
Really?
So.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So there's that. My mom was great. Pursue whatever you wanted to pursue, and we'll back you, except don't leave Buffalo. And I'm like, well, that has to happen.
Oh, yeah.
I got that forever. When are you coming back? I'm like, well, hate to break it to you, Mom. But it started there, and then my dad was great with everything, and he'd call he'd see a story, and he's like, hey, did you see this? I'm like, yeah. It's my job. He's like, well, I'm just making sure. Then my wife, who's been amazing, I joke, but it's dead serious. She's the reason why I'm here today because she's had the real job for all of this, and she's put up with all the shenanigans. She's the one who's had to move 3 times, not for her job, but for my job. And she's just been amazing. And she actually did work in radio. We met. She was, I've got to thank my boss, Bobby Gaughan, up at WGR, because she was working in payroll and HR, and they were making me full time. And he goes, you should meet her. And he goes, I don't know why I'm trying to ruin her life by introducing her to you, but she's sharp, way too sharp for you. And I had to fill out paperwork, and I should have never met her because I could have just done it in her office. But he's like, the only way you get to be made full time is if you go and visit her. True story. And then I did, and I won her over with my charm.
I know you did.
So
you
she says.
two are the best. And she's always coming to the games, and she always comes over and gives me a big hug. And she's just, the two of you are amazing. And I love that. It's hard. Yep. Like I said, through all the moves and all the career changes and the inconsistency in salary, just having that person there is everything.
Yeah, she's been the rock through all of this. And then, just people I've worked with and good friends, but like, people I worked with starting out early, like, if you give this thank you speech, we'll be here forever for it. But Bob Gaughan, who I mentioned, was the first real sports director I worked with for a professional station. And then Paul Hamilton, who gave me the tough love as I was the young, I know everything about everything. He's like, oh, no, you don't. And then the guys who I worked with in college who, said, yeah, go do this, run the department, do whatever you want to do. In Richmond, so many great people I worked with. And my best friend, who is now my best friend in life, like his kids are like, we're aunt and uncle to his kids. Yeah. He wrote me, my best friend in life wrote me an email. He goes, we've been listening to you for a while. And that's how a lot of emails started to me in Richmond. It's like, go home was usually the next line.
Yeah.
And he goes, kind of sounds like you know what you're talking about. And based on your voice, we think you're around our age. So do you play fantasy football? If so, would you like to get in this league? And then he signed it. And he goes, P.S. I'm not some psycho fan. So the P.S. part is why I said, yeah. And I have now been in that fantasy football league for 23 years. That's amazing.
Now, before we get into the last segment, one other thing I wanted to talk about, because I feel like people don't know this. And when I found this out, I was like, oh my gosh, this is so fun. You are like part owner of this amazing bar in Cary. It's called Graffiti. Shout out to Graffiti.
Thank you.
But yeah, it's this bar is like pretty, I want to say new-ish, but you all have been there for like a couple of years.
No, it's a little bit over, it'll be 2 years, depending on when everybody sees us. We opened up on New Year's Eve. So 11 months. So yeah, basically 2 years. So a couple of years.
That is great. Did you always know that you were into like the business side of things, or?
Oh, that's my wife.
Okay.
I'm like, oh, I get to be a part owner of a bar? Sign me up.
It is so fun though. It's like so colorful. There's axe throwing. You've got all sorts of beverages. It's so great. And right in the heart of downtown Cary.
Yeah, the staff is great. And Wayne, who is the primary owner, and Adam, who I've known, they were the 919 beer guys.
Okay,
so, basically, I joke like I was the Kickstarter for them, right? But it was an opportunity, and I live in the area. It's like there are a lot of folks who like do play-by-play or do certain jobs, and they don't live in the city. Well, we live here, so for us, it was like a really good opportunity. We don't live in Cary. I do live in Raleigh, but Cary is 5 minutes away from everything.
Yeah.
But it's like one of these things where like we can have a part of a business in the community and have some fun with it, and that's kind of what it is. And the guys who really put it together, they ask our input. We give a few things. We basically like joke we're the HR for the staff. When we come in, we're like, because if you got a problem, you can tell us, and we'll go from there. Mel, she is the cocktail creator. She is a mad scientist, and I love her. She does a great job with it, but our whole staff is good. So thank you for the plug.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
Well, I grew up watching Cheers, so if I could be Sam Malone, and let's face it, with the business that we're in, I need to have a fallback job in case something happens.
You're not wrong about that, but also every time I do walk into Graffiti, I feel like everyone knows my name.
That's the whole point. Yeah, see, and awesome. I'm now the norm of the bar, so it's great. Works out fine.
That's fantastic. Okay, now Spill the tea.
Oh, let's go.
So this is really just a fun segment. Basically, I was thinking between you, Tripp, and Hannah, who would most fit what I'm about to say of the three of you who are the on-air team. So most likely to Irish exit after a gathering.
Hannah.
Okay. Hannah, I do have coming up on Monday. She's going to come in, and I want to get to know her better so much. She just seems like this mystery to me. And I know she's an incredible woman.
She's the nicest human being I've ever met.
You were saying that. You were like, she is a saint. Like, she's a walking saint. I didn't know like that good of a person could exist in life. But
yeah. I don't know if I want to put out publicly what I joke about Hannah being so nice, because if it's here, then I have to own it forever. But like, there's got to be something that she does that's just not like the most evil thing you can think of, because no human being should be this nice.
I know. I
don't want to know what it is, but I'm just saying she is super.
Everyone raves about her, and I'm very excited to get her in the hot seat and here in a couple days. Okay, who would you say does the most show prep between the three of you?
Oh wow. It's hard to.
It's all different.
It's hard to pick yourself. Hannah is she's such a pro. I'll go Hannah.
Okay.
She's 2 for 2. No,
we love Hannah.
Tripp's just a fountain of information.
Yeah, it's all just in there.
It's like the thing for me with Tripp is like Tripp will in a game. He's like, this reminds me of a game played in Minnesota.
Yes.
The dew point was 14.3, and I'm like, how do you remember all of this? What?
He does have.
It's unbelievable.
It is really fun. I guess it depends on how long the trip is, but who brings the most luggage?
Oh, Hannah.
Would too.
And you know it.
Yeah.
It's like, did you ever see the movie Joe versus the Volcano? It's like that.
That is so great.
Meanwhile, I've learned through the years, less is more.
Yeah, right. Right, exactly. Or you could just pick it up somewhere.
Pick it up if you need it.
That's
That's the other thing. Yeah.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I couldn't even imagine packing for all those trips, especially when you have a back-to-back or you're leaving from the arena. Like my mind would just be like, "Where's my packing list? How do I do this?" Crazy.
Oh, you learn.
Okay, would you rather call a game with 1 goal per period, or would you rather have like a hat trick in 1 period and just do your voice going so high multiple times, or does that kill your vocals?
No. That's a good question. So like hat trick, that's it. 3 goals for the whole game. It's either all at once in 1 period or 1 goal per period.
Yeah.
Give me the hat trick.
Yeah.
Give me a hat trick. Yeah.
Give me a hat trick. The vibe is just wild with a hat trick.
It's the best. Yeah.
That's amazing.
And then I have stolen this from the longtime Buffalo Sabres play-by-play announcer Rick Jeanneret, who, God rest his soul, would say it every now and again. But here come the hats, and like every time a hat trick goal is scored, like that's where my mind defaults to. It's like, and here come the hats. Lamontagne with a go. Here come the hats.
If I got a hat trick, that'd be day made, but that would never happen for me. And
you're a heck of a pickleball player, though.
Listen, you are a heck of a pickleball player.
Well, beginner's luck.
Mike and I had to go. We went to this charity event. We played pickleball together, and Mike showed up, and he's like, "I've never played pickleball before." And here I was thinking, the few times I have played, I'm like, "Oh, I'm about to school Mike." Mike, you were so good. Your athleticism is next level.
Yeah.
I mean, you were playing against the Chick-fil-A cow.
Yeah, exactly. The Ram.
UNC Ram.
Exactly.
And you were just crushing it.
And if you can give me opponents who cannot see the ball coming at them, I'll be very good. I'll be playing well.
You're incredible. And the final question is, and I know this is so hard because there are so many gems on the team, but if you could be besties with one of the Canes players, who would you most vibe with?
Oh, see,
I know it's so hard.
See, because they are such, like, Jordan Stahl, the big man's up there. Sebastian Aho's sneaky great sense of humor, too.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, really, really, really funny. Andrei Svechnikov, who calls everybody brother. I mean, he's such a good guy. But I'm running down the team. Like, you do this is like, thankfully, I don't have children for that question, which is, who's your favorite child? You all have one, by the way. Jordan Martinook. We both love good food. His sense of humor is very much on par with mine.
Yeah.
So yeah, it'd be it'd be a Marty party.
I love the Marty party, and I love everything that you had to say, Mike. Thank you so much for joining me for some hot tea today, and I learned so much. Please come back again.
Anytime.
Thanks for checking out this episode of Iced Tea. If you liked it, make sure you share it with a friend. And of course, as always, let's go Canes. A big thanks to Lane & Associates Family Dentistry, our presenting sponsor for Iced Tea.